Okay, good evening, Brooklyn, and welcome to Brick House. Welcome to Brooklyn Free Speech as well, where we're offering a media talk, where we'll have a professional or an expert come in and speak on different aspects of media. And today we have with us Dui Jarrod, who will basically be speaking as an independent filmmaker and helping folks who want to break out into the industry how to do that independently. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dui. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. She was mad on it the entire time. She was great. How's everybody doing? Good. I'm so glad to be here. I know most of you have absolutely no idea who I am. And that's actually a really good thing. I want to thank BRIC Arts Media for giving me the opportunity, as well as the ActNow Foundation and the New Voices of Black Cinema. Today we are talking about getting started in independent film. Well, if you didn't know, I know you have just 3 letters. My name is actually Dui Jarrod, and I am not Spike. I am not Tarantino. I am a young independent content creator just out here trying to do my thing. So I guess the easiest thing is just kind of start, I guess, at the most important portion, which is how I actually came into getting into independent film. Well, just out of college, I had what I consider to be the perfect career. I was working out in Louisiana. And has anybody ever heard of organ donation? Yeah, some of us are signed up. Yes, well, if you ever so happen to become eligible for an organ donor, my job is to come in at that time and talk to families. This sounds like a very morbid thing, but I have to say, when it happened to me, I promise you, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm meeting and communicating with people of all different races, of all different languages, and I'm trying to help another person, another family. I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I moved up in the company. I actually did really well. Before I knew it, at like 24, 25 years old, I'm making $48,000. I had just given a really big speech in my company about diversity, how to approach different families of color, which of course some people does need actually help with. And after I got a huge raise, moved to Louisiana, after 21 days of being there, I got fired from that job. Fired with no excuse. I was actually escorted. You know how they see, like, they actually escort you out and change the code when you leave? This actually happened to me. So in that moment, I had been trying to save up for a house. I was just trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. So I said, hey, I got a few extra $1,000. I am going to make an independent film. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my very first short film. I've been trying to act and had not been successful at all. So I'm like, maybe writing and creating is actually my thing. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's just creating. So I went and talked to the film commission down in Louisiana because I wanted to know what I needed to do to become a filmmaker. And she asked me this one simple thing. She says, how did your industry start? And I thought about it. And I had no earthly idea how the film industry started. Something that I really wanted to be a part of. I had absolutely no idea what it was all about, what it meant, or how I was going to be a part of it. So, go back a little bit. If we could pull it full screen so everybody can see it, be dope. So this is my favorite show. And yes, I was hungry. I really wanted to do it. So after reading the book, The Empire of Their Own, I found this very simple thing. I found out about these few people: Sam, Carl, William, Adolph, and Louis. These are people whose names you should actually know. They're actually really good friends of mine. See, what happened was they started off in New York. They too wanted to make independent films. At the time when they wanted to do this, the only place that they could exhibit was on Broadway. Well, the Broadway theater owner didn't care for what they were trying to do, so these 5 guys and a couple other friends decided to move out west and make their own thing, start their own company. They wanted to break into an industry that did not want to have anything to do with them because they wanted to create content, which is exactly who we are. We want to create content. Well, my friends Sam, Carl, William, Adolph, and Louis went on to start MGM, Paramount, Universal, and 20th Century Fox. They started just like us. They just wanted to create something, and they found a way, a form, and a function to get it done. So this was me. This was just after getting fired. I don't know what I was smiling about, but I knew that I wanted to do something. So this was actually that's my big booty friend, Shay. Her butt is still that same size right now. This was my last trip to Atlanta. This grin was my last time truly, truly smiling, because right after this, I started my journey in independent film. So today I'm going to give it to you straight. Because I don't know you and you don't know me, I have no reason to lie to you. I have no reason to be disingenuous. Right. I have no reputation to uphold. All I can do is present you with the unadulterated truth. And today I'm going to give you the power of the P. Not that P, but this P. Purpose, pattern, and plan. If you really want to be a part of this film industry as an independent content creator, you need to make sure you have a purpose, you need to establish a pattern, and you need to be absolute certain about what your plan is. Now, I'm going to start off on an outset. My plan is purpose and pattern was all riddled with failure. Okay? So don't look at me and think all of a sudden, oh my God, this is a success story I want to be like. No. That chagrin that I had on my face right there, this is the face of someone who lost a lot. I'll tell you another little quick anecdote. It got so hard for me as an independent content creator because I had this idea that when I do it, I ain't gonna have no plan B, no C, no D. I'm just going straight Dewey. I'm gonna do my thing. So this little face, not too long after this, had to learn how to eat on $3 a day. So what I would do is I would wake up first thing in the morning, and I would drink a gallon of tap water. And in New Orleans, trust me, that is not a good thing. Around 2 p.m. every day, there was a gentleman that I stayed with. He actually lived upstairs, and I always had a key to his place. Well, I don't know how or why, but he had this unbelievable jar full of quarters. So I just figured if I took 12 a day, he wouldn't notice that the quarters had been missing, which is actually how I was eating. I would get two cheeseburgers from Wendy's and a French fry, and at 2 p.m., I would have all the substance I needed for the rest of the day. You guys, I literally did this for 6 months. 6 months. Now, my body was on fleek. Trust that, six-pack all day. However, it was an absolute struggle. So when I decided that I wanted to be a film industry, the one thing that those guys, Sam and Adolph, did, they had a very, very specific idea. I didn't want to just be a part of the industry. You have to know why you want to be a part of the industry, because just being a part of it is just absolutely too broad. You need to know 120% why you wanted to do it. Well, the reason why those gentlemen did it, they were all Jewish. The Holocaust had happened some years before, and they were extremely, extremely sensitive about how they were viewed. So at the time, all they had was theater to be able to present themselves as a broad medium. But as technology became available and pictures went towards motion pictures, they decided to get ahead of the curve and utilize that media to control their own narrative. Greta Garbo and Audrey Hepburn, Elizabeth Taylor, these weren't the most talented actresses. At that time, all the most talented actresses was right here in New York. They took those ladies, they put them in a home, they gave them jewelry and drivers and beautiful dresses. They put them in the most amazing movies. They took them and made them stars because they wanted to control their narrative. Well, I quickly realized that is exactly what I wanted to do too. I was sick and tired of this narrative. And if you all know, like I know, this narrative still actually exists to this very day. The reason why it looks like this is because at the time, just like with the Jews, they didn't look positively upon us. This is where I'm from, in Arkansas. This was the Little Rock Nine. All they wanted to do was get an education, but the community didn't want them to be a part of it. And I felt that I could truly change this through the form of media. I started a company, and I got my 3 principles was to enlighten, to empower, and to entertain. I wanted us as a people to stop having to do this, begrudgingly sit next to each other, and I wanted to become this. The Martin Luther King of filmmaking. I wanted everybody to know my name. I wanted to shout from the rooftop. I wanted to be so good and so amazing at what I did that I became a phenomenon. This is true because I wanted Black people to look amazing on film. But I have to be honest with you guys. I was actually really, really disingenuous about it. I really was. I'm not saying that I wasn't intentional about those other things, but you know what I really, really, really wanted? That. Honest truth. I wanted the fame. I wanted the adulation. I wanted to walk on that stage and be one of the first young Black directors to accept an award. Let me tell you, the first thing that you're going to need when you're trying to do this, you need to become rigorously honest about what you want. You have to marry who you are with your purpose, because then that guides your vision in the process of making films. Let me tell you, it's very, very arduous. There's nothing easy about it. So if anything in your heart is not genuine, or it's dishonest, or it's not true, trust me, it will come to light. This is how the film industry looked at me. That ignorant, smiling guy, they knew at some point it was going to come and get me. Karma always finds you, especially if you're not being true. So I had an opportunity with that money to make my first film, and this is the project that I put together.
Would you be real with me and tell me what the problem is?
What? You were probably nasty to him like always. No, you. That's the problem.
Actually, my life has been at a standstill for the past 2 years.
Yo!
Hey.
What's going on, man?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Getting ready for the big date?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Reading up on pickup lines?
Now look, you're gonna be fine, just relax.
Girl, we gonna be straight. Okay, dang. You gonna be straight for real.
I mean, it's all about the experience. If you give kids the experience over the theoretical, then the experience is gonna work every time. I mean, in school, they teach you history and math and writing. They don't teach you about life and love.
I had to practice that wave like 30 times because I wanted to be so authentic. You understand what I'm saying? This was the first project I ever made. This 26-minute short film that really should have been 6 minutes about two people who were HIV positive and were trying to get back into the dating world, which, you know, the HIV positive on the end was like And I thought that this was honestly, I can be sincere with you. I knew at some point I would win an Oscar, but I felt this would be the thing that took me there. Again, not being honest with yourself. The film was made with about 6 or 7 people who were sincere, earnestly sincere about making films, about making projects. And I have to say, it wasn't ego, it wasn't me thinking I was better than anybody, it wasn't me even running the set. But the moment that I said action, I knew that I was supposed to be making films. But I didn't know how, and I didn't know why. I just knew that's exactly where I was supposed to be. Let me be honest with you. When you go through the arduous task of putting together whatever your first project is, however it looks, if you are belabored by the entire process, trust me, it's just not for you. And there's nothing wrong with being honest about that. Being a part of independent film doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a director. It doesn't mean that you have to be a writer. You could be a makeup artist. You could be a gaffer. You could be a grip. There are so many ends that need to be taken advantage of, especially for African-American content creators on the producing side. We don't think that we hold the power, but I can assure you, the people who get the biggest checks, they aren't the directors. They aren't the writers. They are not the makeup artists. They're not the gaffers. They're not the grip. They're not the editors. The people at the top get the most. So if you really want to be a part of this industry, figure out who you are, what you want, and use that as leverage to create the career that you absolutely want to have. This is what the tunnel after my film after I started to experience my film, this is literally what it looked like for me. I had absolutely no direction in where I wanted to go. I had no direction in how I wanted to get there. I just knew I was supposed to be a part of this industry. And for many of you, especially you that are here, you're probably at the very beginning stages of what you want to do, and you're having to really trying to figure out what road you want to take. Let me be very clear to you right now. You can take whatever road you want to take. The options for us now as content creators are as unlimited as they've ever been. But that doesn't guarantee you success. It doesn't guarantee you money. It doesn't guarantee you adulation. All it guarantees you is an opportunity to do what your heart is telling you to do, which I'm telling you right now is much more important than anything that you ever create. On that set, when I got an opportunity to make that film, I have to say the joy that I got, the love that I got, even when I went to film festivals, it was an incredible experience. But because I wasn't sincere about what I wanted for my career, it became very, very daunting for me. It became very, very hard to put stuff together to make another film. There's another film that I did literally right after this. It never came out. It was amazing. I never did anything with it because I was walking blindly through this industry without making actionable changes towards what I wanted for my career. So let me tell you, purpose is the most important thing you can have. Trust me, that is not wrong. This is exactly how I wanted it. Because if it's upside down, you're not going to be able to do it the right way. Get very intentional, get very clear with who you are, the stories that you want to tell. My favorite film of all time, and y'all all know it, I'll say it like this. I'm the blues in your left eye trying to become the funk in your right. Who is that? Absolutely. Theodore Whitcher is literally one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. He hasn't made anything since then. I don't know why. I don't judge the brother for doing it. I know after my first film that I did, we'll talk about in a second, I actually said I would never make another feature film ever again in my life. We'll talk about that experience in just a second. This guy, let me tell you what I actually like about this guy. Whether we believe him or not, whether it's sincere or not, or whether it jives with who we are, this brother right here knows who he is. He says he is a white man living in Atlanta, Georgia, and you can't be mad at him. As delusional as him and Rachel Dolezal are, you got to give him props for at least being sincere about himself. The one thing that you have, the perspective that you have is so you, nobody can take it away from you, and nobody can create what you can create. Nobody can. This is very, very key. Your life has taken you through various experiences, various moments, various points of growth that give you such a unique story. So now you can go wherever you want. Now you can create whatever you want. Now you need to marry that. You need to know who you are. Let me tell you the number one issue, in my opinion, it's just a personal opinion, but it's a sincere truth. The biggest problem with African American cinema right now is, what do y'all think it is? Money, okay. Quality, what else? Poor acting. It's sincere. These are all serious issues. But I'm going to go back to the second thing that you said, and you said quality. The problem with films, right now, you can pick up any camera and it can look amazing. Let's just be clear about that. The better you are at working it is the better it looks, the more intentional. That's all true. The biggest problem with African-American film right now is the level of the writing. And this is the problem. This is the problem. This is a sincere problem. Everybody thinks that their story is amazing. Everybody's story is not amazing. Everybody's story is unique. Just because your story is unique doesn't make it amazing. The level of writing, let me just be honest with you real quick. 100% honest. The reason why writing is at the level it is independent films, and this is the problem. They're easily made, but they're not easily filtered, which means that you can make whatever you want, but just because you make it doesn't mean it's actually good. The thing that Hollywood system gives you that makes their films, if not anything other than consistent, is there is a filtering process. There's a standard that they hold it to you. There's a first act, the second act, the third act, the fourth act, the fifth act, the sixth act, the seventh act, and then the end of the film. Then you get an unbelievably dynamic and imaginative people like a Barry Jenkins, who I know everybody saw his, I hope you got a chance to see his film Moonlight, which is amazing, who decides to do a 3-act movie that's very rarely done, or Quentin Tarantino, who does a non-linear film. But let me tell you the difference. Those films actually came from them as people. It just sincerely came from them. So they have a higher level of taste, which means with very little resources, you got a very quality film. Whether you like the ear cut off in Reservoir Dogs or not, trust me, it was a memorable project because it truly came from his heart. So what I'm saying is you are the filter for what kind of and the level of quality that you actually produce. And if you don't have a high level, you need to find somebody that does. That is going to be very key. If you're not a writer and you know you're not a writer, find a writer. If you're not a makeup artist and you don't know any makeup artists, you need to go hire one. If you're not a director, go find somebody to direct. You can make a whole film about your dog Fido, and all you did was produce it, and it comes out looking amazing. Because you got a great writer, a great this, a great that, a great the other, and guess what? It's totally from your perspective. Purpose is the most important and intentional thing that you can have if you really want to get started. And again, it takes rigorous honesty, not with others, but with yourself. Pattern. All right, let's talk about this real quick. Establishing a pattern for your career is vital. So what I did on the first set, I was flying by the seat of my pants when I was making my first film, nothing more, nothing less. I got a little bit better with my second. Then I started making a bunch of web shorts that probably got like 10 views, which is okay. But what I had done in the process was I created a pattern for how I would work. I created a pattern in which I would make films and choose actors. I, up until my last project, never auditioned actors. You want to know why? Because on my very first set, I knew every person in the project. I knew all the actors personally, and what they brought to the set was nothing but love. So I decided I would only cast people that I knew. So when I got to my feature film, that's exactly what I did. That may work for you, it may not work for you, but that's the pattern that I had. I also had a pattern of working with the same DP. We were roommates, we were brothers, best friends. That's who I work with every single time. Establishing a pattern for what you do is vital to your success. And once you establish your pattern, then all you do is repeat that same pattern over and over again to create quality projects. So, this was my first feature film. I will tell you a quick story about how it came about, and then I'll show you. So I remember sitting in an office. I was with an Italian guy and a black guy and my friends, 2 friends of mine who were trying to get some money for the project. So the guy is asking us how much money we need. I've never been asked this before, and I lowballed. And let me just say this now. Whatever you need, just ask for it. The universe will open up, period. If you need $100,000 to make your project, ask for $100,000. And don't make it until you have $100,000, because the heartache that you will experience will be unbelievable. I felt I needed $85,000 to make my first feature film. He asked what we needed. I said $50,000. He says, I'm not going to give you 50. I'm going to give you $100,000. I'm like, oh, pick me up, I'm about to make a film. That's how I felt. Now, I had gotten a little bit older. I had experienced a little bit more struggle. So I said, okay, I got this $100,000. I'm all in. I'm thinking in my head. I'm not even at the place where I'm thinking about what's going on in this meeting. I'm just thinking about this opportunity. So the guy goes, the Italian guy, he goes, oh, man, I heard this great joke, man. Oh, man, it's so good. Let me tell you. Okay. Hold on. I don't want to lie. Okay. All right. So what's long and hard on a black man? I woke up, 2nd grade. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. I lowballed myself. Now I'm being offered double. And now I hear this joke. Because I knew who I was, I said, hell to no, to the money. I had made a decision right then and there. Let me tell you, this industry is going to force you to make decisions like that all the time. And because I knew who I was and how I had run my sets, I knew there was no way I could have this energy in that group of people. It would destroy what I was trying to create. 2 weeks later, I had a friend of mine who introduced me to another friend of mine who heard I was a filmmaker and said, hey, man, I have $35,000. Can you make your film? I said yes. So then I made my first feature film, Lesson Before Love, in Atlanta on $35,000 from him. And then he brought another investor who gave me $45,000. So I was only $5,000 below what I felt like I truly needed to make a film. And this is the project that I made.
You look better than your pictures.
Why don't we all stay?
7 years, long days, sleepless nights.
You are now looking at the new editor-in-chief, Noir magazine.
Every morning, say, I love myself first.
I'm toasting to poor, smart, sexy, fun, loving, focused, and informed.
I've come to this moment 1,000 times in my life, and I really don't think a toast will suffice.
Gotta feed the fam, gotta pay the price. Gotta keep trucking through the jars of clay.
You're not gonna make me feel bad about the truth. You want some truth? What can you possibly tell me about? You faking, just like me.
Your fiance is in Vegas. That's what's really going on. Girl, no. I'm just trying to get you to want something deeper. I just think you should want something that would last longer than 2 minutes.
I'm a musician, and I would love to work with you.
No thanks. Isn't being single easy nowadays? I mean, they have a culture that supports you guys, and to be young, fly, fabulous, and single is okay, right?
I mean, I saw a study just last week that identified African American males in jail outnumbering those in college 4 to 1.
I know no one in prison. However, 99% of the black men I do know are college educated.
Do you know 250,000?
Alexis, I'm in love with you.
Thank you for such a wonderful evening.
I could study science, get my law degree and PhD, and never love the person in me. Where do you learn how to love? Love, teach me how to love myself so I can love you better, better.
Thank you. That's what $45,000 can create. And I have to say, that was the dumbest experience and dumbest thing I could ever do in my life. $45,000 is not enough money to make a feature film. period. I know people always say, you can make a feature film, you can just do a film. No. Let me be clear. Even with $45,000, it is not enough money to make a feature film. The most basic features films, claimed by those 6 companies that we were talking about at the very beginning. Let me just say this one fact. 560 on average films in the studio system are created a year. Every film that you see was started by probably one of those 5 people. Outside of that, they predict that about 50,000 other films are made every single year. How many of those 50,000 do you think are making money? A very, very small amount. The percentage is 0.0001. And the ones that do get it are acquired by one of those big companies. So those are the odds that you are actually starting when you want to go about and create some content. It is already daunting from the very beginning. So when I made this film, I had all the intentions in the world. Let me just start telling you a couple of mistakes that I really made and implore you not to make the same ones. 1, I did not write myself into the budget. I was the producer, I was the editor, I was the director, I was the screenwriter, I was an extra, I had speaking lines, and I did not make 1 red cent. Just because you are broke doesn't mean that you deserve to be broke. Of that $45,000, if I did the same thing today, I would get 10% of that budget. You have to write yourself in, because at the end of the day, this idea, this terrible idea that starving is the way to make it is ridiculous.
Right.
Second, because I had done all these small films before, I always knew that the key was to work with people that you love. So when I get to this film, the one thing that never crossed my mind was paperwork. It never crossed it. Let me be clear. Paperwork is not a threat to sue. It is a contract to keep everybody honest. You don't know these people. They could be your best friend. You sign an agreement with every single person. I didn't do that. There was this one gentleman, I dare not speak his name. I said he was a pianist, and he's an amazing pianist. Oh my goodness, I cannot take that away from him. So I said, hey, I want you to score my film. He said, absolutely. So I had worked with him, and we gave him ideas, I gave him songs, I gave him all sort of things to say, hey, this is what I want for my project. Paid him $3,600 to do the music for my film. That's produce all the songs, and that's to score the film. That's all we had to give him. Somebody got in his ear and told him that he was being cheated by us. He didn't realize that $3,600 was $3,600 more than what I had gotten, right? After we went through our legal battles with this gentleman for music that he created that he refused to give to us, we missed film festival submissions. We missed deadlines. We had to go get other people to recreate the music. We had to then go pay another guy $2,000 to score the music. So we had to go find money that we didn't have. My dad sent it. Thanks, Pops. When he came back to us at the end of the day, when we had to sit down at the deal, we had to give him 100% ownership in all of that music. We had to then pay him $1,500 for the rights to license the music from him. So he took money to create something, he owned it, and he got a licensing fee from it. Not only that, he took every bit of soul that I had left in my body, because I had never dealt with that before. I never worked with somebody who was that selfish. It had never happened, and he won. He walked away with more, seemingly. But y'all remember the little man at the beginning, karma comes. Now, I'm not saying anything has happened to the brother. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what didn't happen. But you know what? Whose fault that was? It was mine. You want to know why? Because I trusted and I didn't go get the paperwork. So as mad as I was at him, not anymore. I started drinking wine on a regular, so I'm in a very peaceful place. I had to accept responsibility for what I did. So I didn't get paid, and I didn't go on the paperwork. More than anything, you guys, I had an idea for where I wanted this film to go, but I didn't have a plan. Because you have to leave money in whatever budget you create for promotion. Because if no one knows about it, no one cares about it. I hate to say it, that's just the way it is. And this was a few years ago. Now it's even worse. You know, now when somebody sends me something to watch, the first thing I look at is how long it is. And if it's like over 10 minutes, I will get back with them at another time. I need to check Facebook, right? That's the world that we live in. Everybody is extremely selfish and intentional and purposeful with their time. If you don't have a plan for what you're doing, your work will absolutely suffer. Because I didn't have a plan, I couldn't get it into anybody's hands. Couldn't get it in anybody's hands. So I'll tell this story publicly. They may be mad, whatever. I have nothing to lose at this point. The film has sat around for about 11 months. We got into a couple of marginal film festivals, but the film was just sitting around, so we had to sign a distribution deal. We knew the day we signed it, it wasn't that great of a deal. We did. However, they were able to get us into Netflix, Xfinity, iTunes, On Demand, and in Redbox nationwide. Nationwide. Do y'all want to know how much money we end up getting back? Less than $5,000. Literally, my family in Arkansas was able to walk to Redbox and see my movie right next to Independence Day. And for my pocket, it didn't matter because I didn't have a plan. I relied on someone else to make the plan for me. And just like the guy with the music, just like the people with the budget, they're going to do a win from their perspective. If you don't want to win, okay, you just create whatever you want and do whatever you want. But if you want to win, you better have a plan. Now, this was about 7 months after I had did it. And I'm showing this picture for a very specific reason. If you can recognize me or if you're not, this is me right here. I had gained 40 pounds. I was at the point no longer pre-hypertensive. I was hypertensive at this point. I was getting hives. I'm so serious. I never want those again. I was getting hives. I wasn't eating. Now, how you don't eat and gain weight, I don't know, but that's what was going on with me. What I'm saying, if you don't have the right pattern established and hew to the line, you're physically going to suffer for it. Physically, your body is going to go through changes. And let me be honest with you, y'all, it just wasn't worth it. If I'd have known what I had, I would have said no. I'd have held the $45,000 in escrow and would have used that to leverage against someone else to give me another $45,000 as a match. So then I would have $100,000 to make the project that I needed to make. There are certain actresses I wouldn't have hired, just being honest, you know? But I did it because I feel like that's what I had to do. Let me tell you, you don't have to do nothing. What you have to do is be true to yourself and make the project that you're supposed to make. So you need to have a plan. Once you start having your purpose and your pattern, you want to start having an executable plan. Let me tell you, there is no excuse for you as a filmmaker not to know anything in today's time. It takes a 10-second Google search to learn how to edit. It takes 20 minutes to learn all the distributors that are in this country and their email addresses and how to get in contact with them. It takes 2 weeks to really write a good film according to a pattern that you can buy offline. There is no excuse for you not to be successful. A good plan is like this. It's stealthy, nobody else can see it, and it's riddled with intentions. You want to be unbelievably intentional about what you're doing and how you're creating it. And you can only create it for yourself. I did what all the people with advice say do. I tried to call Spike Lee. Do you think he picked up? Hell to the no. I even decided to reach out to white, producers to see if they would be like, oh, let me help the little black guy out. You know what I mean? Did that work? Hell to the no. I had to execute my plan myself. After Lesson Before Love, I decided I'm not making any more films. I started writing plays. That just became my thing. They were easier to produce. I was able to get them out. I was able to get more instant gratification from an audience to come out and see my work. But about 6 months ago, another opportunity presented itself to make a web series. Now that I knew who I was, now that I knew the way in which I wanted to do it, I got with the right person at the right time to create the right plan for its execution. And then I got to make my most recent web series, because I really want to get into the digital space. I created my most recent web series, Brooklyn Blue Sky. I did it with Raven Drummer. Shout out to Raven. She's Tyler Perry's casting director. And we got together and we made what I consider to be a very special project called Brooklyn Blue Sky.
I want my writing partner back.
I got an idea. Poor boy, rich girl, writers, fall in love, make a baby that they put up for adoption and forget that shit ever happened.
What's really going on?
I'm so scared.
We need to get to writing.
Why?
Because we're alive.
So the sound's going a little faster than the video when these things happen. If you hit me with your emails, I'll share a personal link with you tonight where you can check it out because it's not public at this time. But you see the quality is much different. The levels that I'm doing is much different. The pattern, the plan, even at this point now, without it being anywhere, we're already at a table to talk about distribution. We already have an incredible plan put together with an executive producer who just loved the work for what it was because we were finally executing everything that we needed at a high level. That does not mean that you're not going to still run into issues. Trust me, I still ran into issues, but because I had a team that I built on love and understanding and mutual vision, it went by a whole lot easier than we ever expected it to go.
I want my...
So let me get you real quick the 7 deadly myths about being a filmmaker. 1, film is a passion, not a career. That is absolutely false. You can make serious money off being a content creator right now, and nobody knows who you are as you walk down the street. I know 2 guys, they're a couple in Brooklyn who make a documentary every year for $60,000 and they sell them for $2 million every year. Amen. You can get whatever you want, whether it's adulation and praise. That's what you want, be honest about it. If you want to make money, be honest about it. If you just want to make good work and just let the chips fall where they may, which is where I am now, be honest about it. But it's not, it's just a myth. You can actually have a career doing this. 2, you must starve to win. Let me tell you, my worst days of creation, of writing, was when my belly was empty. You cannot create on an empty stomach. It doesn't allow you for the natural things that you need, the rest that you need, the joy that you need. It's really hard to smile when you're trying to figure out where your next meal comes from. Trust me, I was there for a long time. I've beefed back up, so that means I'm in a good emotional place. People tell you to focus on one thing. That is terrible advice because you actually can do a whole lot of things. Now, I'm not just a filmmaker, I'm also a playwright. I've started to do one-man shows. I create content for other brands. I do so many different ways in order to make money and survive. Is it easy? No. But is it possible? Absolutely. Fame is the only measure of success. This is a huge myth. Let me tell you, did any of y'all make it to the Met Gala last night? No. It's more people that's not famous than that are. It's more people who keeps the industry's wheels turning, whose names that you don't know. Andrew Julian, do y'all know him? Brilliant. Anissa Foley, do y'all know her? Brilliant. These are people doing their things, making money and surviving and creating dope content. Just do your art. It's a little misspelled. That's one of my serious issues that I have. Let me tell you something. Don't just do your art. Your art, nobody thinks is amazing. Oh my God, let me tell you this one time, like I had this movie in my head, it's really amazing. It's about two people who steal a car and like all these things got crazy. Okay, I'm like, nah, no thank you, I don't want that pitch. Oh man, let me tell you, bro, I got this real good idea, man. Listen, man, it's about two people who steal a car, you know what I'm saying? And it just get crazy. Heard that before. Hey, let me tell you, man, listen, there's this movie in my head about two people, they steal a car, mayhem. Everybody got all sort of ideas. But what's truly going to connect to your audience? And I'm telling you, what's going to connect to your audience is you, not an idea. There are 1,000 ideas. Pain makes the best work. This is so untrue. Some of the most beautiful films come from pure joy. Now, what it is what makes a good project is not necessarily pain, neither is it joy. What it is authenticity. So if you make something that's unbelievably honest, that's incredibly vulnerable and real, people will connect to that. And that's the most important thing. You must write your film. That is completely untrue. There are so many amazing writers that are out there, you guys. Liz Green is an amazing one. Monique back there, she's an amazing writer. My friend Barry is an amazing writer. You don't have to write it in order for it to be amazing. But it does have to be filmed properly and produced unbelievably well in order for you to survive. You don't have to be a writer-filmmaker. They're dope, but they're not the best out there. These are the 7 things that I shouldn't tell you, but I will anyhow. 1, this is the honest truth, guys. You might not make it. Not in the way that you think, at least. I mean, at this point in my career, I really thought that I would have several feature films under my belt. I'd be directing television. But no, I'm making a web series that's getting picked up and more opportunities to come. How you measure success for yourself should be by personal progress. Are you where you were last year? And if you're not, then keep going. But if you started off not getting paid to make film and 10 years later, nobody's still paying you to make film, it may be time to rethink something else, unless that's what you want to do. Remember, each man is left to his own devices to find what's truly in his heart. Friends and family should remain friends and family. The kiss of death of doing your film is hiring someone you know to help you with your film, because they're the first person to offer you an excuse for why they can't show up. Just let them be friends and family, nothing more. Don't even need to read your stuff, because most of them don't understand nuance anyways. Not saying they're not brilliant. I'm just saying this is not necessarily what they do, unless you know your dad is Quentin Tarantino. The truth is, guys, it's just the honest truth. It's harder for minorities. I know we always talk about that all the time, like, you know, there's like a limit, but it is. It's true. Now, is the industry making progress? Yes, they are making slow progress to hire more minorities, to give more minority people opportunities. But unfortunately, before they hire you, they think of you as a minority. That's a problem. They don't sincerely say, oh, she's a great writer. This is a story about a young lady in Fargo. I want her to write it because she's dope. No, they're going to look and say, does her experience reflect this, and can it be genuine? Right? So we're still fighting that. And it is harder for you, and you have to decide that. This really good advice was given to me once, and I have to just give it to you today. She told me, don't measure whether or not you want to be in this industry by the best examples, by the people like a Barry Jenkins who did one film, Medicine for Melancholy, and then a few years later came and blew it out the water. She said, look at the absolute worst example. And if you can suffer it, if you can be a person who makes films for 20 years and nobody knows your name, then you can do it. That's the biggest measure. Y'all, it takes money. I know we can be all, it takes money. You need money to make a really good project. Can you still make a project without it? Yes, but it is absolutely going to be belabored, and you have to decide if that's what you really want. Listen, the honest truth is nobody really cares. Like, I made films and I thought people's lives was gonna be just changed and they were gonna just like email me that they're on the verge of suicide and they saw Lesson Before Love. That is not the case. When people walk out of the theater, they says, that was a good film. I mean, think about it. You read books all the time. You're like, okay, that was good, but it doesn't change your life. What changes your life is when you make a really personal connection with something. And you can't decide that on the latter end. All you can do is be open as hell and hope that people find you where your heart is. Be selfish as, okay? Listen, this sounds terrible. This sounds like the worst thing to say, but if you are not selfish, just prepare to lose. All of my losses early in my career, some of the losses I still have today, have to do with me trying to appease and help others. Be unbelievably selfish because that's what it takes. None of this matters. Listen, I'm not saying your art isn't important to you, but even if you see a Mickalene Thomas or Kara Walker piece of art in a museum, it's just amazing art in the museum. What matters is the relationships that you have and who you are as a person, and if this career is destroying you or if it's growing you. And you can only measure that for yourself. Some progress is big, some is small. Decide for yourself. But know that we're just making really good art, but this is not the thing that you're going to carry over. It's who you are that you carry over. So this is what I would have told this idiot when he had this crazy chagrin on his face, thinking that everything was going to be easy and he's going to be super successful. Love the people in your life. I cannot tell you how many birthdays I've missed along the way, weddings that I've missed along the way, all in the name of unbelievable sacrifice for my art. Art that wasn't even happening at the time. You have to live in your truth. I had an opportunity, a really big opportunity to have an incredible meeting, but my niece at the time, I already promised that I would come visit her on a very specific weekend. I decided recently not to take that meeting and to go meet my niece, and I'm much better of a person for it. Find other ways to do other things. This was my one-man show. I did a one-man show. I had no freaking idea what I was doing, but somehow it seemed to work. This show took me to London. It took me to LA. It took me to some other places. Arkansas. I got to do the show so many different places, and believe it or not, I made money off each and every time. So you can create in other ways and still be dope as I don't know what. You get to go visit other countries. Now, unfortunately, this is not a picture of me, but you see the idea, right? You totally get it. Don't forget the people that you started the journey with. In my very first film, Lindsay was there. My very first play, these two guys were there. He was a producer on my very first film. Don't let go of those people. It's very important that you stay connected because at the end of the day, if they had your interest in the beginning, they're going to have your interest right now. Don't forget to create relationships with new people along the way. These are some newer friends that I have in New York. I have no idea who this is, but hey, he's a friend too. And don't forget to enjoy every single moment of this process. It is long, it is arduous, it is hard, it is tough. But tell me, trust me, it's unbelievably gratifying if you can do it. So thank you for your time. I think now we have a question and answer portion. So any question that you have, as vulnerable as not about the filmmaking process or money or just any knowledge that I have, and I'm more than willing to spit it out to you. So just raise your hand if you have a question, and I'll repeat it for the camera so they'll make sure they have it. What's up, my brother?
How did you wind up coming over here to BRIC to speak with us? How I got invited to BRIC was I was invited through the ActNow Foundation, through Marty. They were doing New Voices in Black Cinema in a connection with this BRIC Media Arts, which is the first film festival that I have to say really revolutionized what I wanted. And it was the film festival that I wanted to get in more than anybody with Lesson Before Love. And for it to be a part of my journey, I have to tell you, I'm unbelievably gratified. They just had a film festival not too long ago, but they're doing all sort of theater readings and everything along the way. So that's how I got to be a part of this today. That's dope. That's great. I've been attending a lot of Black women in media panel discussions, and I've been requesting more Black men to come by and speak. So thank you for coming by.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, man.
Go up to the mic, please. Do I need to go on the mic? You can get the question. Please go to the mic. We're recording this, that's why. Thank you so much.
How you doing, brother?
Okay.
Dewey.
I'm Kev. How you doing?
Kev, nice to meet you, man. And this is really me doing
I'm
that.
just trying to, like, first time filmmaker that I am. I'm working on my first piece. Like you said earlier, is it good to use your friends to help you produce the project?
No.
Is that the best way?
Unless they're just giving you money and walking away. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to say that totally. Sometimes you have people who do have expertise who are professional individuals, but I'm just saying you're going to get more honest work from people who have the same purpose and drive that you do, right? So if your friend is an accountant and they can do the accounting for your film, but that's not really what they're interested in, then they're not going to be as apt to get up at 6 a.m. and to leave to set at midnight, right? But somebody who wants to do accounting for films don't have a problem with it. It's a part of the process of what they want to do. So what I'm saying is not to say don't love your family and friends or trust them in the process. You can, but you're going to get a better product if you work with people who that's what their purpose is to do.
Well, the reason why I asked the question because most of my friends are producers here, like 2 camera operators. That's why I'm asking that because I want to know, like, is it good to use the people that I have in my circle?
Oh yeah, that's totally different. Listen, I use the people that's in my circle all the time because they're serious about what they do, and you get to have that reciprocal energy, right? So then I get to go be a gaffer or do something on their sets as well. So it's reciprocal. But you'll find like there are people who just work on their projects, and when it's time for yours, they don't have that much time. So, you know, be sincere, ask, be open and honest, but at the end of the day, listen, you could hire the perfect person at the perfect rate at the perfect time, and they come down with, you know, pneumonia the night before your film, and it breaks it. A part of this industry, a part of making these projects is it's live. It's alive when you're making it, so things are going to be thrown. You just have to fill in the gaps and keep it moving.
Thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
I have a question. Do I have to go up to my... Oh my god, still. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so I have a question, yeah, because a lot of the, just coming to New York and everything, I wanted to know how, I'm trying to, okay, I had it in my head when I was sitting down. This is beautiful, like just the, not just because it's like minorities, but just like people coming together, because I came here starting in fashion design, and it's like very like whitewashed most of the time. And I had a question here, because you talked about, oh, that's what it was, because I was just binge watching a couple of indie films because I had worked with this one particular director and I really, really liked his work a lot. So then I started like just digging around other people that they were connected to and so on and so forth. And I want to understand why the quality of projects with people not of color are just, like, I feel guilty that when I was watching it, just like the quality of it and like the intention and everything was like so accurate. But when I'm with my other friends, it's just like, we're not so in sync. It's just like when I'm on, even on fashion sets and production sets, it's just like you said, you have your gaffers, you have your wardrobe, you have this, and it's like everything, like they fool around and everything, but everything is like on point. There's paperwork, there's like each team, like it's all together, and I just want to know how I can bring like my community together to do the same things and make our projects just as great and more better, so we can have more Issa Raes and we can have more Spike Lees and, you know, people like that. I just want to know.
Yeah, I get your question. Because I feel kind of
guilty, like.
No, I get it.
Sense.
I get the question and I get the intentions, which I'm sure all of you get the intention.
I don't know if you guys get it. I'm just trying to like. I had it written down, but I couldn't.
You don't have to be so delicate, but I appreciate the delicacy and I know why you're being extremely delicate. The thing is, it goes back into a system of education, right? So some people are blessed with the privilege of having education and educational resources. Others that don't have to kind of figure out how to do things on their own, right? So it takes
the only thing you could do is start a school, you know what I mean? And make that affordable for everybody to go. Like BRIC Arts Media, I think, is one of the incredible things that's going on right here in Brooklyn, because it gives anybody who wants access to access. But the other side of that really just comes down to professionalism and the ability to adapt and learn. Like, I didn't know what I was doing on the first set that I didn't even know I was director until I got there. I was just putting everything together because I thought that's what you were supposed to do, because it was my script that I wrote. I didn't know anything about the process, so I was lucky that I worked with other young professionals. Figure out who has a high level of decorum, support things that are good, understand the intentions of the things that were bad, and just do the best you can.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work and your words today.
You're
I have a
welcome.
question about kind of going into what the last person talked about, was about what is a process of creating quality, because education is important, but then if you don't have the education, what does that look like? Because I know that it is said that 10,000 hours makes the master. So how do you get from your very first film to where you are right now? How did that process happen for you, or what clicked on in your mind that said, okay, now it's time to take it to the next level?
I appreciate that question. One thing that I had talked about a little bit earlier in a very subtle manner was really comes down to personal taste. You know how some people, they have money, but they just look like really tacky? You know what I mean? And then some people, they don't have that much money, but they look like kind of amazing every time you see them because they just know how to put it together.
Right.
It really just goes to personal taste. You must be one of the latter. I get it. I'm the same. I don't have much money, but I could find a $2 shirt and look the bomb. So it really goes down to personal taste. And one thing that I did, listen, and you should all do this. Every year I watch all the Oscar films. But I also watch the Razzie films. Like, I watch the best and I watch the worst. And sometimes I really will look at a film and be like, I have no desire to watch this. I will watch it anyway. Because what it does is it begins to train your eye on what you're looking for within the context of the frame. Also, reading scripts is unbelievably important. Even as a playwright, when I first got to New York, I hadn't read any other plays. I was just writing them. But the more I read them, the better I get at writing them, because my eye becomes more refined in the process. When you can't afford to get an education, sometimes you have to educate yourself. I'm telling you, Melvin Van Peebles is an incredible example of that. And I'll just tell you one thing. He needed somebody to score his film. He needed somebody to score his film. He didn't have anybody that could score his film. So he had to decide to learn how to play the piano for himself. So he would literally, on the keys, he wrote 1 all the way to 88. And when he writes his music out, it's like 32, 39, 14. And he plays chords based on the music of how he knows to write music. And that is brilliant, because what he did was he knew there was a pattern to it, and because nobody would teach it, he created them for himself. So you create your own pattern. I know if you go to my sets, I usually don't have like a script supervisor. I can't really afford one. I usually either have a gaffer or a grip. I never have both because I really can't afford them. You understand what I'm saying? I'm now having the money to start sending my script to script services to get their opinions on the level that my work is. But the reality is I'm still absolutely doing everything for myself. So the process, you just continue to refine. And I think even over the course of the 3 projects, y'all saw my eye constantly get more and more refined as each project happen. And hopefully, if I continue to grow, my next project will be even more refined. And that's all I can hope for. Yes.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for coming here and doing this.
Thank you.
As a longtime engineer here at this facility, and also as a person working in film of color for a long time, I actually worked with Melvin Van Peebles and his son. We did a movie about his son when they were doing all those role swapping movies back in the day. I also worked with Bill Dill, who's the second next to Ernest Dickerson cinematographer. Bill Dill was the second black cinematographer. Okay, and I say all of this, and I just give a little bit of myself because I've been working in this industry on and off in film. Now I'm in the television side, and I wanted to just ask, to fund my dream, to fund the stream that funds my dream, do you think it's wise for me to just say, leave this and go do what you want to do. My dream has always been to make films. Working with Bill Dill, I worked on 5 Heartbeats. I worked with Robert Townsend. I've worked with Spike Lee and other notable filmmakers, Oprah and the like. And she's doing a lot of film stuff of late and has always done it since Color Purple. Should I just drop this gig and just go on and do films myself? Do you think you recommend that? What do you think?
Well, I'm definitely not going to destroy your dream because that's not what I'm here to do at all. But I am going to be unbelievably sincere. I'm not going to use that as an example, but I'll just use a more practical example, right? Let's say you had a house that you wanted to build that was just like your dream home, and you had sparse materials, but you didn't have all the materials that you needed, like you didn't have the cement, right? Would you move out of your house and start working on building a house, or would the goal be for you to move from this house, wait till this house is built, and then move in? Think about that. Because the reality is, if you don't have the foundational things that you need, and the foundation to this industry, whether we want to agree with it or not, is not talent, it is money. If you don't have the cement, it is very hard to build everything else. The script is brick and mortar. You know what I mean? The editor is the window. The set dressing is the curtains. Those are all the additions too, but you have to have that basal foundation. But that doesn't mean that you can't put a plan together. The Duplessis brothers out of Louisiana, I think, are really incredible filmmakers, and that's what they did. They did make the move that you made, but they had some money on the side in order to do that. So it wasn't insufferable. And they also had a plan to go back in. And of course, they had support from their parents in order to do what they did. So the reality is there is no path to it. But whatever you're trying to make, whatever you're trying to do, just make sure you have the foundation for it. Because if you have the foundation, you can build. If you don't have one, I'm not saying that you can't build. My uncle built his house and they moved into one room. And then year by year, he would add on like another wing. And you have to see the house because it really, you can see that from the weather. Like you can see the first house that was built and then like the other little subsequent houses. So you can do that. But again, does that compromise your dream? Does it compromise your vision? You know, you have those choices. I have a job. You know, I have a full-time job. I'm not a full-time filmmaker. I know you guys think I am. I'm not. I'm not a full-time filmmaker. I won't leave this job until I have the money that I need for my next opportunity because I already tried it. And for me, it doesn't work. Y'all saw them 40 pounds. So that's what I would say, man.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. Yeah. Any other questions? Ideas? Any advice for me? And also, is that your sweater? Because can I borrow it? I'll never give it back, but I would definitely love to borrow it.
Could you tell us, since you did not go to film school, what are some of the resources that you would recommend to people who are getting into filmmaking?
Oh my goodness, that's such a good question. Well, definitely get the internet. Like that's the key to it all. So what I did was, to be honest with you, the only reason why I knew I could make a short film was because I went to this local film festival in New Orleans. And for the first time, I saw like a film that was like 9 minutes and it never dawned on me. You know what I mean? So you have to see it sometimes before you can really, really do it. So some of the things that I would definitely encourage you to do is if you're not a writer, you need to start reading a whole lot of scripts. Like it really does refine your eye. White scripts, black scripts, stories that you understand, stories that you don't. Read as many scripts as possible. One of the things I also do is I go to the Lincoln Center to read a lot of my plays and to watch a lot of like theater. There you can get scripts and you can get films and stuff like that there as well. BRIC is an incredible place to come where they'll teach you different skills from editing to sound engineering to producing to working cameras. So this is another really, really good resource to kind of teach yourself. But anything that you want to learn can be learned. It truly can be learned. One thing I wish I had done, but I wasn't in a city like New York to do it, I would have definitely been an intern for a filmmaker. I used to do stand-in work when I was living in Louisiana. I would, I'm not gonna tell you who I was stand-in for, but I used to do stand-in work, which is basically, I wanted that role specifically because I wanted to be on set when all of these things were going on so that I could understand how it actually went on. So that's another way to do it, is to go on set either as an assistant or do another small role and to watch and see how it's done, because then you know who's vital and who's not vital to the process. So that's what I would encourage you to do. And I will say, watch a lot of films. And I watch films with intention too. Like, I'm looking for things like structure. I'm looking for like character, plot, intention, storyline. I'm looking for all those things. And I can have a really informed conversation to the point where a lot of my friends don't enjoy going to the film with me because I'm like, that's shot. That ain't even what he needed to shoot. He needed to go in. You know what I mean? And like, you killing this experience for me. So I usually go by myself to see films, but that's what I would definitely say. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, are most of your writing?
Yes, Mike again.
Okay. It's just a quick. I was just gonna say, are most of your scripts and film ideas like based off of the films that you see, or mostly personal experience?
No, it's all personal experience.
Personal?
Like, literally today I was having this experience and was like, oh my God, this would make a really great film. So that's how I do it, but I read a lot of books and you get little things. Yeah. And believe it or not, y'all, I watched Intervention and My 600-Pound Life and A Young Will Fix My Life, like documentary type stuff, and you get all sort of stories. You're like, oh my God, these are 3 sisters and they were all molested and they didn't know until they turned 45. You know, that's like a really good construct. Like, that's like a really good situation to put some people in and have them deal and grow.
Them.
So I just intertwine a little bit of everything. And yeah, sometimes I do, like, you'll see reflections. If y'all ever watch Lesson Before Love, which is very, very hard to find right now, you would be like, he was trying to be a little Spike Lee. You'd be like, I see the little Love Jones that he was doing. So these influences do come into play, but that's a part of what it is. Like, once you see it, you love it and you believe in it, you try to do it too.
And another question. So are there like parts, because I know for me when I'm writing and it's like personal experience, when there's like a difficult part when I'm writing and I'm just like, oh, I feel so vulnerable. Like, when I make my film, it's like, my heart is like out here. Is there any like parts of your film, because I know you, like, you know, you've written it, directed it, like you've done it all like by yourself. Is there some parts where you're just like, it's so hard to like let go of it off, you know, from the script and like just like be vulnerable and just like because you know how there's like a particular scene, or there's just like one particular line that you're just like, it just brings you back and you feel all of those things that you did when it was actually occurring. And then now everybody is like, my fear is just like, it's not going to be played out how it happened and how it is in my head. That's why I want to do it all myself, but you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Well, so it's like,
yeah, I totally get your question. I know what you're asking. The reality is, your hands get more refined the more you do it. Now I can really sit down and say, I only need to say this, or I only need to say that. I used to be writing monologues for everybody in every scene. Like, I was just like, everybody got to say everything. But over time, when you sit with an audience like this and they sitting there like looking like, okay, you get it. Like, oh, I didn't have to say all that. I have to do all that. I could have just shown it. Yeah. And yeah, there are times of extreme vulnerability, but for me, the vulnerability comes in when I know I'm about to write it. Right? So if an idea doesn't strike me in that vulnerable place, I don't even sit down at my computer. And especially now that I'm working and creating content and doing other things for brands and stuff, I don't have time to just sit down and just write. So I'm always writing with intention, and it's always from a very, very vulnerable place. And yeah, I cry at the computer sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's interesting because a lot of those times is when it's reflected in the audience as well, but they're having those emotional moments too.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. I love that flower.
Thank you.
Give me Billie Holiday right now.
Earlier you talked about pattern, And I wanted to ask a question about pattern with consistency. Like, do you have a specific pattern when you are developing work for consistency, as in producing? Like, you need to have X amount out by this, so this is my structure. And I know that you're also doing a web series, which is an audience demands, okay, every week, or I'm expecting to see this. So do you have a structure for how you go about releasing that content or preparing to release those series of content?
Yes, thank you for that question. I really appreciate that, especially concerning the web series. All I could do was, again, put myself in the right situation to get a win. You can't guarantee yourself a win because it has to come from people. So when I created my web series, I knew I personally don't like to see a web series longer than like 10 minutes. I just don't enjoy it. So then I started to do research, and you find out people really like stuff between 6 and 8 minutes. So then it became a challenge to create within that frame. And as far as releasing, there are several ideas that are out there. Of course, you can release all your content at once, which is what my plan is for this series. But that's only because I don't have the money and media to continue to keep people's eyes attached to something that was just 6 minutes of their life for 8 weeks. I need to just release it all and ask you for 45. So I would rather ask you for 45 minutes than for 8 to 6 minutes a week. And hopefully that's enough to be able to share and to get forward. Also, it allows me to concentrate my marketing effort. So I know I have 6 weeks. In the third week, we're going to release the trailer. Then after that, every other day, we'll release some kind of content, release this scene, release this, and we'll all be doing that. All social media, all events, all involvement is for this one day where we release it. We have a big party, let everybody know, and we let the chips fall where they may. But we organized our media, our contacts, our connects, everything gears to one specific day to drop it. But that's for me because I don't have the resources to do it. But Scandal, they can let you know all day, every week, we coming back this week. And then they're unbelievably brilliant in their storylines, and y'all are so connected to their stories that you can't wait to get to it that next week. With such a concentrated 6 minutes, there's not that great of a story I could tell that you're like, oh, I can't wait to get to this next 6 minutes. It's just not that deep. You know what I mean? Now, after you see the series, the connection may be there. And so that's what we're banking on. And we may win and we may not win. You understand what I'm saying? But the goal was for me was to create it. Now, I got a review last week with somebody, like a behind the scenes review, and he tore it apart. And I'm like, brother, I get it. But again, because I've gotten reviews before, I got amazing reviews for Less Before Love. It didn't make it any more of a success. So a bad review is not going to make it a failure. You know what I mean? It's just one man's opinion. I'd much rather hear what y'all have to say about it than a critic anyways, because they're only doing it through their scope, and it's a very limited scope, in my opinion, especially when it comes to African American content.
Yep. For sure.
Any other questions? All right, now, jacket. Boots and jacket. I'm with it.
Come on, Vic.
Hi, guys. I know like 20 people in the room and people over here because I'm a BRIC certified producer. And I do 20 other billion things, but we won't talk about that. Anywho's, my question is, I am prepping to go to ABFF, and I know that you discussed that you actually have a connect now to Tyler Perry's casting person. How did you get that connection, and what would you suggest on meeting the right people to network with to build relationships?
We went on a date. Somebody set us up on a date, and we were like talking about film, and we were like, "You a filmmaker?" She's like, "I'm a filmmaker," and all like romanticism like went out the door. We're like, "Let's talk about this other stuff. Like, let's just hang." And so we became really good friends. And this was during the time I created Less Before Love. A year later, she created her web series, Good Girls. And then we didn't really talk for like 3 years. And then we came back and we had this. Okay, so let me just be really, really honest about this. If you have a person in your head to connect with and you get a chance to connect with them, it's going to do absolutely nothing for you. Absolutely nothing. Every connection, like I have literally shaken Tyler Perry's hand. Like literally, this hand shook his hand. And I said the corniest, wackest thing you could ever say to him, which was not me being totally honest, but it was the wackest thing, and it didn't make any type of connection. It didn't. I've seen Spike Lee walking out of like one of the restaurants over here. I don't go, "Hey, Spike!" It's not gonna do anything. Your earnest connection comes from the people that's sitting right next to you, believe it or not. When I went to my first film festival with nothing more, nothing less. At that time, Barry Jenkins had a film called Medicine for Melancholy. I loved it. And from that, I'm like, oh my goodness, you can do this really small film with just 2 black people and it'd be dope? I didn't know that was possible. I didn't get to connect with him, but I got to connect with Anissa. I got to connect with Logan Coles. Logan Coles is now one of the lead producers for all Chadwick Boseman's films, you know? So the connections that you get are from the people at your level. And there are going to be times for you to work up. You trust me, you will know when those times come. But to spend all your day, spend all your night emailing Tyler Perry, emailing Antoine Fuqua, emailing Robs, it is a waste of your time. You would do better emailing everybody in this room and us having drinks. Because we will be able to help get you there because we're there too. We're all there together. You know what I'm saying? It's just honest truth. But you can do it. You can do it if you want to. Any other questions? You good? All right. Well, I want to first of all thank you guys once again. This was as inspirational for me as hopefully it was for you. And thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Yeah.